What's up, everybody? Now that y'all are nice and calm and meditated, we're gonna be breaking down 100 Thieves versus Sentinels in this new pro meta breakdown. We're gonna be breaking down their decisions. We're gonna be breaking down their character choices so that you know everything that you need to dominate your games, learning from the best of the best in this insane match. Not only is it 100 Thieves versus Sentinels, but TENZ was playing on the Sentinels roster. Freaking amazing set of matches that we're gonna break down right now. But go to the GameLeap website in the links down below for high quality advanced guides, tips and tricks, and everything that you possibly need to climb to Immortal and beyond. Do yourself a favor, go check it out right now. But without further ado, let's jump into the video. Now, this was some matches between 100 Thieves and Sentinels, two of the top teams right now, period. However, Sentinels has an exception. Specifically, TENZ is playing with them for the course of the tournament, and he performed exceptionally well against Luminosity, and as you're gonna see, he performed exceptionally well here as well. Now I'm going to break down the characters and all the really interesting differences between these two teams, but first, let's break down this pistol round play-by-play and note some things that I think are actually pretty important for you to understand. So 100 Thieves is going to be on attack and Sentinels is going to be on defense, and Steel is actually buying a Sheriff. And there's several questions that come up here, like, is this a mistake? Why'd he buy it? Didn't you say not to buy a freaking Sheriff? Well, here's the thing. On attack, Killjoy's utility is limited, and you do get your best form of utility on attack, which is your turret, for free. Also, because he's pushing up B, he can wallbang check a lot of places. Now, that being said, do I really think it's that good? Probably not, but it is understandable why he would run it. I could imagine having nano swarms to check certain cubbies would be better, but I do understand why he ran it in the first place. Now, notice how 2 of 100 Thieves take control of B main, and then the rest of them are gonna push up mid and try to take mid control. The people holding B main are just gonna wait there. They're not gonna do anything. They're just gonna wait there while their team is pushing up mid. Now, out of nowhere, a Sage Wall is gonna come up, blocking off CT from mid. There's gonna be a smoked CT onto site, and there's gonna be a quick execute or rush onto B site. Now, this is something that you really need to understand. It's one of the biggest reasons why all your rushes are going wrong in ranked. Imagine if the entire team stacked B main and just rushed onto site. There are far too many angles to control, and it's very difficult to refrag. Most of you are probably just gonna die unless the enemy messed up in a really big way. Now, what you should be consistently doing instead is setting a certain amount of people to control an alternate angle so that when you push onto site, not only do you have less angles to deal with, but it's a lot easier to get refrags and punish enemies for trying to stop you. A perfect example on the other point would be like having people lurk up and take control of tree room while other people are holding A main, and then you push onto site at the same time so that you don't have to worry about tree or getting shot from tree as you push onto point, and you can deal with Gen, under hell, heaven. You do not have to focus on every single angle though. Now, that being said, while their execution was almost flawless, they made one little mistake that ruined everything. What was a clean potential execute went awry when there was a crack in the smoke. You see, Ethan, who is a new addition, pops off really hard later on, and I'm not saying that he's a bad player by any means. He's actually freaking insane. He almost put 100 Thieves on his back in the second map. That being said, he's newer with less Valorant experience than pretty much everyone else that's playing, and it bites him because that little tiny crack, Sick and TENZ took full advantage of and were able to destroy the entire team as they tried to push across. They did everything correctly. They took control of B main, they took control of mid, they walled off the CT angle, they pushed on to point with smokes, and the smoke wasn't perfect, and it basically gave the enemy team a free pistol round. Now, this really goes to show you that even a tiny mistake can really cost you an entire round, because that was such a slight mistake that really cost them a lot. And from a person that just plays in ranked, you gotta understand that these type of mistakes are being thrown around all over the place. People are making these mistakes over and over again in ranked. Even when you climb up to some of the higher ranks, people are making these mistakes. I mean, we're looking at pros that are making these mistakes. Everyone is making mistakes constantly, but if you can identify them, you can see, hey, they messed up this. They didn't put this in the proper place. They didn't clear me out of this cubby all the way. These are things that you can really abuse and utilize to get gigantic value in your games as well. Now, the next play I really wanted to showcase is a 3-way play by TENZ, Zombs, and Sick that I really like and I really love. If you're ever 3-stacking, you should definitely try this play. Watch how Zombs is going to create a 1-way, Sick is going to molly, and TENZ is going to walk up with the judge. You see, the 1-way blocks the far peak, and the enemy cannot swing into the molly. So if any enemies were there, they just couldn't punish TENZ while TENZ gets sets up perfectly. Now, this is really great. Of course, no enemies there. Steel goes and lurks later on, who gets picked off, but you do gotta understand how powerful this can be. This basically keeps the enemy team guessing. They don't know exactly where people are, and it allows someone to get into a really optimal position to potentially get a lot of value. Now, later on in this game, pretty much throughout the entire game, Zombs will constantly smoke that one way every single round, and it really leaves the enemy guessing. It puts a ton of pressure on them, and they never quite know when there's going to be someone pushing up, they're going to make an aggressive play, or maybe there's no one there at all and it just wastes their time. Now, on top of that, occasionally Zombs will mix in paranoias where TENZ will be way more aggressive with the dash, and very often Zombs will be ready to follow up. If there's any sort of aggression, Zombs will follow it up with the paranoia, and then there could be an execution. So this is really showcasing the value and power of team play. And yes, I know when you're with random people, you're not going to be able to set this up pretty much ever. But if you ever get a 2-stack or a 3-stack, try to do these things. Try to stack with people that really care, watch these videos, and stack with people that really want to mimic the pros and utilize this, because I promise you, you're going to be able to get giant squad wipes doing some stuff like this in your games. Enemies are going to try to rush through. They're going to rush through the molly, rush into a one-way. You're going to get a ton of kills. It's going to be freaking amazing. Now, for the last big topic I really wanted to talk about is the differences in compositions and the strength and weaknesses of both, because 100 Thieves is playing a very untraditional composition, and I think it differentiates from the current norm, or the norm that we have been seeing for a while, which is Sentinels composition. So first, let's talk about the normal composition. The Sentinels composition: double duelist, double info with one smoke. Phoenix Jet in the duelist category, Omen as the controller, and Cypher and Sova. That's the Sentinels composition. It's pretty solid. You have Jet, who's extremely powerful. You're playing all the heavy hitters with Sova, allowing you to execute. Cypher to stop flanks and at the same time prevent rushes on defense. And then of course you have Phoenix, who's just pound for pound very versatile, can lurk, and sick on Phoenix is just absolutely nuts. Now, you take that composition and you compare it directly to 100 Thieves, who's not playing any flash-based duelist. They're playing one duelist in Raze. They're still playing the Omen and the Sova. That's like pretty much you always play that on this map, is Omen and Sova. But then they're also playing a Sage and a Killjoy. Now, something that we can kind of take out of the equation is the Killjoy versus Cypher, because it's a lot up to personal preference, and realistically, Dapper loves the Cypher and Steel loves the Killjoy. So I'm gonna kind of call that a wash. I'm not gonna get too far into that differences in the composition, but what I will talk about is the Raze Sage versus Phoenix Jet. You see, essentially, 100 Thieves composition really rely on players being very disciplined, playing together, playing off their utility, but at the same time, they don't have any quick executes, they don't have the ability to make any proactive plays, and realistically, the composition looked very, very lacking on this map. A lot of times on attack, they would double up the slow orb plus paint shells in order to take full control of Cat, but realistically, I think that's a gigantic waste of abilities when you could just use a Reyna blind or even a Phoenix Flash to take the same angle. On top of that, poor opping because you're not utilizing Jet, which is one of the best oppers on one of the best op maps, and realistically, their entry was lacking. I mean, all they had to engage most of the time was just a Sova recon, and it wouldn't be able to cover everything that they possibly needed to when they tried to take a point, and most of the time they would still die to just other people hiding around or playing around the recon. Now, ultimately, the reason I think that 100 Thieves got so stomped on this map was, one, because of their composition. I just think it was really poor at entering, and I think that the Raze was extremely lackluster. I'm not really gonna blame Asuna for that. I really don't think that this is the place where Raze shines the most, and I don't really understand playing her over a number of different duelists. Now, on top of that, they lost a lot of rounds to opping, poor opping, and TENZ was on freaking opping. But I understand that maybe they are not quite comfortable having no Opera right now because of the changes that they had with their composition, where they lost Dicey's and they brought in Ethan and then they switched some of the roles around. So I do understand that maybe no one's quite confident in opping. I know Steel picked it up a couple of times in the games, but it was two pretty poor results if I'm being honest. Now, ultimately, what it comes down to, in my personal opinion, is when you're playing a composition like that, you have to play extremely disciplined. You're very good on defense, you have a lot of utility, and you have a lot of team-based plays that you can execute. However, you don't have any room for these tiny little mistakes because you don't have the clutch factor to overcome it back. You don't have the raw power and the individual impact. A lot of times Sentinels would overcome some of their tinier mistakes by making these really sick combo plays with Jet and Phoenix, TENZ and Sick together, who played phenomenally together, by the way, and it really allowed them to brute force their way through a lot of their big mistakes. But when 100 Thieves weren't playing perfectly together, when they made a couple of mistakes, lost a few people, it really showed, and they didn't really have any big way to come back from any sort of disadvantage. I'm going to be extremely interested in the next time, maybe as they get the kinks out, are they going to be playing a different composition, or are they holding to their guns and maybe they think they just played a couple of things incorrectly? But I want to know your opinion about it for those of you who watch the matches in the comments down below, and definitely let me know what you think about both of these compositions. Which composition do you like better, 100 Thieves or Sentinels? Tell me why down below. But go to the GameLeap website in the links down below for high quality advanced guides, tips and tricks, VOD reviews. We got so much damn content on the GameLeap website, and we're gonna be coming out with tons new Astra content before you know it, so go check it out right now. But thank you so much for coming by. Hope you enjoyed the video. That's all I got for you today. I'm Coach Mills, and of course, until next time.